Good evening. What? Did it go live?
Yeah, it's suffering.
Okay. Hopefully it doesn't go away again. Don't breathe. All right. I guess I'll just jump right into it. Not a ton going on in PHP news, really. RC2 for PHP 5.5 was released a week or two ago. So hopefully within the next couple of months, we'll be seeing a stable release. Bring some pretty cool stuff with it. I know one of my coworkers is, he's nipping or whatever. He's going crazy he's drooling for generators. Just crazy for it. So, but tonight I'll be going over how to use PHPStorm to debug an application. And in order to do that, I just went through GitHub and just kind of searched for a few projects, and I found found a few projects that were kind of outdated. Seriously? I got a feeling it might be the microphone. So I stand over here. Does it again, I'm going to just ditch the microphone and hopefully that'll just try and speak loud. So I found that I came across this Silex blog tutorial application. That's good. So I came across this blog application that was outdated, and I tried to install it, and stuff was broken. I'm using Nginx, so and of course all it had it assumed Apache, so it had this little htaccess file, which, as everyone knows, isn't going to work on Nginx. So I had to make my own Nginx config file so it would work normally. Luckily, it's very simple. Like most MVC apps, it's just a one point of entry index.php, and so any static file that that you try and access that doesn't exist, it just pipes through to index.php. If anyone wants to see what that looks like, I can show it real quick, or I can just jump right into the debugging stuff. No? Okay. All right. I'll get over here so I can try and project that way. If anyone can't hear me, just yell. Tell me to speak louder. All right, so I got the application running enough so I can get to the main page. But if I go over here to sign up, something's broken. And let's say for some reason you can't get to an error log, or error log's not working, or PHP 5 FPM is set up in a way that it's not capturing errors. So what do you do about that? I'm going to jump over here to PHPStorm. Actually, let me show you really quickly how to install Xdebug. So if you have an installation of PHP, I'm using 5.4. As you can see, I've already installed Xdebug on here, but installing Xdebug is as easy as install Xdebug. And it'll download and compile and install. Their Wi-Fi here is horrible, so I'm just going to cancel that. Super easy. You will have to add in a config file. Where is it? Usually all you'll need is just this first line. I have a couple extra configs options that I use for work, but you don't really have to worry about any of this. It's just the Zend extension line, which initializes the extension for PHP to use. Easy to find out if you have xdebug. Like I said, you can do the PHP-V or PHP-M will show you a list of extensions. You can see it down the bottom here. Some modules. It gets loaded different than most extensions because it's tied more closely to the Zend engine. That's more closer to the core of PHP. A lot of the others it kind of just adds classes for you to use. Xdebug's more, you can closely see, you can do tracing with it and all sorts of crazy stuff. But now that we have xdebug installed, I'm going to go over here into my IDE, PHPStorm, and under PHP, open, debug. What am I looking up there for? Right here, we see, okay, xdebug. Most stuff you can just leave default. One thing I have found is this option here, maximum simultaneous connections, can kind of nip you in the, it can get in your way if you're running an asynchronous application. Awesome. Okay. So you might want to increase that if you're running an asynchronous application that you're trying to debug, which also requires another PHP script to run at the same time. Otherwise, one's going to block the other one. Because when you try and run the script, it's going to try and call back to your IDE. It's not going to happen by default, and I'm going to show you how you would normally run that. Where'd my browser go? Hello? Really? Okay. So if you just Google PHPStorm xdebug or PHPStorm bookmarklet, it'll give you a couple of little bookmarklets you can just drag into your bookmark bar. And the main ones you would use are start debugger and stop debugger. Wow, something's really logging. So we're going to hit start debugger. I think we're lagging because I'm doing screen recording at the same time, because I've never tried that before. Okay, so if I run this again, and I come over here, and this is the index.php file that gets run initially, and click right here, that's going to put a breakpoint. So when I run this again, let me just reload. Get an error. Let me try and find out what's going on. Yeah, it's screen recording. Okay, so I will try that again. Holy cow. Maybe it didn't set the cookie. Find out.
Tell it to listen for incoming connections.
It is, because I literally just had it running earlier today.
The icon to the left of PCS down.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I always forget.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Wow. All right. We'll not be using QuickTime to do screen recording anymore. Camtasia. Is that free?
I think there's like some of it you can use that's free.
Okay.
But like if you want like the highest quality stuff.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't need that. Okay, so as you can see, my IDE popped to the front here, and you can tell that it's debugging because you'll get a little check mark on each of your debugs, and you'll get this pane down here at the bottom, which will show you where it's at. So right now, you can see index.php line 2 is where we're debugging right now. So, and you can, it gives you a couple other super globals you can open up and look at. You can also add watches, which means you can, based off of whatever the current context is, you can just arbitrarily look at any variables that are available. So, for example,
At the current context of the breakpoint?
what's that?
At the current context of the breakpoint?
Correct. So, like, if you're inside a function, any of the variables that are running or that exist at the point where your breakpoint is will be available.
What if you're inside a class? You still...
Yeah. Well, like I said, yeah. So you can use this or whatever. And actually, all right. Let me step after app exists. Oh, so we're inside the. We're now inside the config file. So anything that. Let me just run to the end here. So if I just tell it to go ahead and run. Okay, there we go. So at this point, app exists here. So we could actually dig into app. Silex uses primarily what's called a container for its, it's called Pimple. As far as holding all of it, any services that you need, you would register them inside the container. So anytime you need any of those services, you just request them from your container. You don't necessarily initialize the service classes there. You can register factory methods to create the class. So you're not running around with a bunch of heavy services all the time. They'll only exist at the time you request it, and they'll keep optionally they'll keep a static version of that available for you to use. Not static, but it'll be available on that container. So if we come over here and say I want app. So I'm not sure what else actually exists on here. And we will get a Silex HTTP cache. And that's not going to show up right under here because it's a container. It's uses a lot of magic request methods, and it's accessible as an array. So it implements the whole array object. So you can dig in there and see what's, if you need it. So that, it's pretty powerful already as far as debugging. And normally, what would you do to debug it when you need to get to information like that? You put your debug function in there that var dumps whatever thing you want, and just start reloading the page over and over again until you get to what you need. But at this point, we can start, actually stepping into the application. What I did was hit F7, which is the same as this button here, which is step into the next line that's executed. So back here, you can actually, it keeps the variables around where, if you do a trace dump, it'll show you kind of the same thing as what we're looking at here. So, like I said, the last thing we ran here was this run, and where we currently are is, like I said, there's a lot of kind of magic methods inside that container, and this is one of them. So I'm just going to keep stepping through. Instead of stepping in, I'm just going to step over just to get through a couple of these methods.
So is this primarily a function of your IDE or that PHP module?
Both. It is hooked to, Xdebug calls back to your IDE. So this is something primarily you would use on a local development environment. You could put it on, like
the step
remote environments, but
stuff, is that part of the Xdebug? Or is that part
yes. Well, again, it's both. There's a Xdebug exposes an API that kind of the IDE uses in order to tell PHP to step to the next function and grab a variable or evaluate whatever you want.
You showed settings a minute ago that control multiple connections.
Right.
Will they show you multiple stack frames?
Yes, it will.
Have two concurrent connections, for example, you'll get two
Mm-hmm.
sets of stack frames. And
Right.
Then watch.
Right. Let me change that setting. Come on.
You'd have to have a page where it makes sense.
Right. Yeah. But I can show you what it looks like anyway. I'll just load up another tab with that same thing in it. Holy cow. All right. So now. We're still loading up the initial page. That's awesome.
Is your QuickTime still running on the back?
Yeah, maybe I should just kill it. Okay, so yeah, it finally hit. So yeah, you'll get two tabs here.
Okay.
This is the initial one, and this is the second one here. Right. Yep. So I'm just going to kill this one.
So is this Silex IDE for all platforms, or is it?
Silex is the framework.
Oh, it's a framework.
PHPStorm is the IDE.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of the methodology, stepping through and stuff, the UI might look a little bit different in Zen Studio or PHP, Eclipse, or NetBeans or whatever, but mostly it's gonna give you the same kind of functionality. One thing that if you used a debugger before, one thing that's available in a lot of languages is the ability to pause, and that's one thing that that unfortunately PHP and Xdebug doesn't expose. I don't know if there's just not a really good way to do it, or if they just haven't gotten around to implementing that functionality. So if you're inside the middle of a loop for some reason, and you might want to pause it to see, this is taking 5 minutes. What's going on? And pause it.
So if you go next line,
It'll run until.
once inside the loop, it executes the loop till it's done.
Right. Or until the next breakpoint or whatever you.
Can you set a conditional breakpoint?
Yes, you can.
Like,
So
stop every fixed time. And
right, exactly.
Pass this breakpoint.
Right. So, in order to do that, you could just right-click on a breakpoint. Come on. Seriously. Stop it. Oh dear. All right, I'm killing QuickTime. If it'll let me kill it.